Hello. So it's another 10 minutes of core stability. So again, you might need a towel to support your head, either forehead or the back of the head when we're lying on our back, on our front, it's there. So I am going to come down onto my mat. We are going to start again in a lying down position. So if you looked at the first 10-minute chunk, it'll just show you how we can find that neutral spine. So we're going to come down with those knees bent. Remember, we had the fingers towards the pubic bone, the thumbs on the belly button, and we were just basically making some rocket movements, so tilting this pelvic till we arrive at that point where the thumbs and the fingers are sort of on an even plane, and you have that natural curve at the back of the spine. That is our neutral spine. So we are going to really relax those shoulders. We're going to look up towards the ceiling, and we're just going to think about tightening that belt to notch 3. So if you remember, the notch 10 is the hardest you can tighten that belt, and by tightening it we mean drawing your tummy button away from the waistband of the trousers where my hand is. Sometimes we talk about drawing the hip bones together. Sometimes we talk about bringing in a little bit of pelvic floor. So if you can imagine drawing up through that pelvic floor, so almost drawing your pubic bone up towards the belly button, but again, not 100% of the maximum. We're talking about 30%. And once we're there, we're going to relax the shoulders, relax those shoulder blades against the mat. Just let them melt. So we're going to take those pelvic tilts, and then we're going to find that neutral spine, tighten that belt. Then we're just going to simply walk the feet together, walk the knees together. Now, let's come into those hip rolls. Now, we did this in the first 10-minute chunk of core stability. So remember that movement is coming from this trunk. So this is where that belt-like muscle is controlling the movement of the knees. So we sometimes think in terms of forcing the knees down. I want you to think about this belt allowing the knees to move. You can move that head in the opposite direction. The shoulders need to be soft and relaxed. If they're not, you may be pushing the move too far. So think of this in terms of just mobilizing that spine, getting some movement between the joints of the spine. And then we're going to come back to center. Now, we are going to see if we can walk those feet hip width apart. Remember, we want to try and make sure that those toes are roughly 12 o'clock and the heels are behind them. We're going to find that neutral spine. I like to bring my heels a little bit closer to the bottom. I'm going to tilt my pelvis, and then I'm going to come into that bridge. And I'm probably going to take 3 or 4 before I actually get into full bridge, because we're sort of warming up as we go. So we're just peeling that spine away from the floor, really squeezing through that bottom muscle. Good. But again, we're just warming up as we go. So we're squeezing. I mean, it could be that it takes you 7 or 8 to get to that full. Everyone warms up differently. So listen to that body, squeeze into those heels, squeeze this bottom all the way down. Now, I find it really helps me to breathe out as I move into that position, as I move away from the start. Breathe in at the top, and then I like to breathe out as I come back down. But really, as long as you're not holding your breath, don't worry about that breathing. Now, if we can, we're going to hold this for a few seconds at the top. So imagine I've lit a fire underneath your bottom and it's burning your bottom, so we're squeezing through those bottom muscles. If you feel a dull ache in your lower back, this is what you might be doing. You might be pushing into the ribs. So see if you can lower those ribs. Use the bottom and the hamstrings rather than arching that lower back. Then we're going to come all the way down, and we're going to bring one knee to the chest. Now this time we're going to gently straighten out this other leg. Push the ankle away from center. We're going to bring this one up. Bring this down. We'll do the same on the other side. So we're going to get a nice little stretch in those bottom muscles, but we're going to stretch out these hip flexors a little bit at the same time. That's good. Then we're going to bring it up, and we're going to bring it back. Now for our core strength, last time we did those leg slides, if you remember. I'm finding it easier this way. Okay, so you can do that, but here's another way of strengthening those abdominals. So we're going to do what we come into tabletop. Now, as we lift that knee up, you're going to have to brace these abdominals, because what wants to happen is that the back wants to arch away from the mat. Okay, so we're tilting the pelvis rather than using that core strength and stability. So what we're going to do is tighten our belt. We're going to see if we can breathe in, and as we breathe out, we're going to bring that knee into tabletop under control. Now, this is parallel to the floor, this here. Okay, so imagine you've got a glass of water. This knee is directly above the hip. Now, if it's difficult, you can bring the knee closer, and that will make the core work less challenging. Okay, and at some point we may be able to bring 2 legs into tabletop. Now, all we're going to do is we're going to keep that belt active. We're not going to let the back arch, and we're going to just straighten out that leg, come back to tabletop. So I am going to breathe out. I'm going to breathe in. Now, as you breathe out, this is when the back may want to arch away from the floor, when the shoulders might want to tense. So we're just keeping that strong core, breathing out, breathing in. Now, once you get better at this, you may be able to find you can lengthen that leg a little bit closer to the floor. But don't be tempted to do it if that back arches. So we're going to do 8 on this leg. Good. Now, just see if we can bring this leg down. Okay. You may want to just relax a little bit, give those knees a little hug, and then we may be able to do the same on the other side. So we want balance here. So we don't want to have one side stronger than the other. So we're going to see if we can work those muscles on the other side. Okay. Now we're going to keep just letting those shoulders relax away from the ears. Let those shoulders melt into the mat. Good. So it's like having an inner core of steel surrounded by silk. So the leg is flowing, shoulders are relaxed, arms nice and relaxed. Good. And remember, if it gets too challenging, take the foot a little bit higher. And as you build that resilience and that strength, you might find you can take it a bit lower. So when we've done our 8 on this side, again, let's see if we can hug this knee in, bring the other one nice and controlled, nice and controlled. You can breathe out. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just let those arms come out to the side. I'm going to let these knees fall, but relax them at the same time. And I'm going to move over onto my side. So I have got a little bit of glute work here. So we did some back work last time. This is going to bring a little bit of lower back work in, but we're going to just play it by ear. We're going to see if we can squeeze through this bottom and just gently, gently lift one leg, lengthen one leg and down. Now what we're going to be very careful of is lifting that leg too high. I just want to activate the bottom muscles, which will help with the lower back. There's a bit of lower back work as well if you feel there. But we're not going to go too high because we don't want to arch that back. So we're going to squeeze and control it down. We're going to squeeze and control it down. Now while we're doing this, I want you to imagine you're lying on a bed of hot coals and those coals are burning your belly button. So we're going to draw that belly button away from the mat. We're going to squeeze and bring it down. Good. We're going to squeeze and down. So we're doing roughly 8 on each leg, but we're going to listen, and if that's too many, we're going to just amend it. Good. Now I want you to imagine that those hip bones are melting into the mat. Good. Shoulders are relaxed. Allow those shoulder blades to slide down the back. It's quite tempting to do this. So see if we can move from the hips, squeeze and down, squeeze and down. Good. Last one. And then we're going to see if we can push ourselves
into our child's pose position. Let those arms just relax, let the shoulders relax, let that head relax. Good. Now, we're going to come into a kneeling position. We're going to see if we can get those hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. Now we're going to practice that pelvic tilt in this position. So we're going to practice that pelvic tilt, and then when we're ready, we're going to drop that chin to the chest, draw that tummy button towards the spine, draw that spine to the ceiling, and as you breathe in, come back to that start position. So we're going to do 4 of these. This is the cat stretch, really nice to open up that spine. Breathing in, draw those shoulders away from the ears. And then we're just going to come back here. Okay, I think that is 10 minutes. So we're just going to bring ourselves, actually I'm just going to come forwards like this and I'm going to just do a little stop. There's so much more I want to do.